party candidate had to concede defeat, and of course extending some congratulations to the winner. That many have said the last time we had that in Nigeria was that of 2015. Goodluck Jonathan extending congratulations on time to the president then-elect Muhammadu Buhari. And as few takeaways, the issues of electoral process, how it was age-free in terms of elections and all of that was what we must begin to also pay attention to, see how we can get our transparency of elections right, as so as to address all of that issues of main agitations, litigations, even afterwards elections. People go running to court for tribunal and all of that, which is still a major problem. Well, of course, concern about stakeholders' engagement on tax reform is still on. There are a lot of persons making some counter concern about that. The Senator, their wisdom, said, let the committee meet with the AGF and the Ministry of Justice as instructed by the president, so as for them to look at the gray areas on the content of that bill, to see what is the concern, where is the controversy really coming from. We've seen a lot of concern from the North who are really saying, hey, look, issue of VAT derivation is still a major concern to us. Can we come back and make proper consultation? Can we engage our people so that they can understand what it means, that it's not a one-sided kind of bill? That is the argument of the North, and government on the other hand is saying, look at the good part of the bill, look at the issue of addressing multi-taxation, look at the issues that, all of these will address in terms of the reforms the tax bills holds to address. That is back and forth between the National Assembly, the stakeholders, the Northern governors as well is still a major concern. But tonight on the program, we will explore all of that concern and also look at the issues of implementation of the minimum wage. Some states are already making move towards the direction, while some states are still not making any talks between the bodies involved in respect to implementation of the new minimum wage. What does it mean? Does it mean that funds, states are yet to have the funds to pay the new minimum wage? What does it mean, the priorities of workers in the country, looking at the fact that it's been a long time coming, the president has signed that into law. So what is happening with implementation? We'll be having a guest on the program tonight who will be extracting that development, giving us an insight on the implementation of the new minimum wage. But everyone, let's get to go on a very quick break. And once we return from the break, I'll be speaking with the Deputy President of Trade Union Congress, who will be joining us live here on the program. Do stay with us. I'll be right back. Comrade the first Deputy President of Trade Union Congress, is my guest tonight again to look at the implementation of the new minimum wage, concern about the few developments coming from various aspects, non-implementation of some state, concern about the tax reforms, and the angle the Nigerian workers are really coming from in respect to that bill. Tonight is live here in the studio to give us perspective to this development. Thanks so much, Comrade, for joining us on the program tonight.
Thanks, God.
Yes,
yeah,
again and again. Thank you. The last time we were here, we were looking at the development that came from the meeting when you guys had met and agreed on the minimum wage. A few months after, some workers are agitating. NLC said on the first day of the second day of December, we are going to hit the street for strike and all of that. So it looks at government, state government, and the other end are not doing their own bits best in terms of implementation of that new minimum wage. What's the update, please?
Well, I think it's a worrisome situation because values the worker must be concerned about the welfare and well-being, because it is not about a worker, it's also about a worker and extended family, because every worker at least is responsible for 4 or 5 members of his family. So if you deny them what is their right, which is the wage, then it therefore means that you are not concerned about the well-being of the worker. I agree with the fact that the federal government, Mr. President, signed the Minimum Wage Act into law, and by September, the National Salary, Income and Wages Commission also issued a template that set the tune for payment. But some states, by its nature, will have engaged the workers in the states through the Joint Public Service Negotiation Council, which is a statutory body that engage the states, just like at the National Joint Public Service Negotiating Council that did before the circular that came in from the Salary and Wages Commission that kick-started the process of payment. So we feel that it is not about making pronouncement that we are going to pay 75,000, we are going to pay 80,000, we are going to pay 85,000. That is by the way. But the most important element of it is the consequential adjustment. Because when you have the consequential adjustment, he will address the issue of grade level and steps. For instance, a worker may be in grade level 10, step 2. Another worker will be in grade level 10, step 3, step 5, just like that. So the differential on that step is taken care of through the consequential adjustment. So if that is not done, a mere announcement of payment of 85, 75,000 as the case may be is a nullity. And we feel that there are states that are very much in touch with the reality. They have engaged the union in the states and they have taken a position. But there are also states which I don't want, for obvious reason, to start naming, because we believe that they have kick-started, after the threat by the NLC. So a lot of other states have picked up to agree with the state, with the state workers on when, they expected to start. Don't also forget that even at that, they must address the issue of consequential adjustment, which is not a one-stop meeting.
So if Lagos, for instance, is saying 85,000 and Rivers State is saying 85,000, those are really having a concern. So does this arrangement also have a consideration in those states?
Yes, no matter if you like, announce 100,000 as your minimum, the consequential adjustment must come into effect. Because, like I said, the consequential adjustment addresses the issue of differential in terms of grade level and steps. You can be in the same grade level, you can't earn the same salary. Because it is the step that determines what you earn. So, like if, for instance, you may be, step 10, or let me say it, grade level 10, step 8. Another person will be grade level 10, step 7, or like that. So the differential of what you take home is determined by the steps, not just the grade level. And that is what consequential adjustment does.
If all of this is really taking time, that those are having a concern. We are in the digital, a lot of our workers have been digitalized. Why is the system taking time to onboard them and all of that consequential arrangement?
No, you see,
because many state governors have set up committees to look at implementation and all of that.
But you see, let me be frank with you. Negotiation of consequential adjustment is even very tedious, more than the minimum wage. The reason being that, for the states, they understand, and for them to arrive at what they want, they too understand. The government knows they know. I don't also forget that a worker understands the working of government because he's insider. He's the one that drives the government processes, so he understands. When government says there's no funding, You know, a worker knows that there's funding. So they foot drag in consequential adjustment. It was just what happened at the federal was very magical, let me say so, because within 2 days, you know, consequential adjustment was arrived at, something that takes months. Yeah, so in the state, it might have suffered the same thing. Because one thing is to set up a committee. Another thing is also to empower the committee to do the work diligently. You know, government can also technically set up a committee and refuse to fund the committee to function. And by that implication, it therefore means that the committee will just be a sitting committee. You know, so there's no driving force.
Right, because the concern has been the pressure mounted over the issue of non-implementation. Looking at the recent economic hardship, that those are fews, because the part of the agreement you had over issues of minimum wage was the consideration as at the time. Fuel was about maybe 600 or 800 as at the time. Now we're talking about 1,100 now. It's still a major concern. How do we continue to, you know, navigate through this process?
Well, you see, some state governors are intentional about that. For instance, Akwa Ibom State Governor, they are paying 13 months. You know, and other states are also given incentive to workers. Because one thing is, your salary is a right. And you demand for your right. It's not a privilege. But you see, if you are denied your right, you can challenge it. That is why the last option is the strike. That, you know, the moment NLC issued the ultimatum that is going to end by 31st, from 1st you start, but they did not say from 1st you start a strike. Because one thing is, you cannot call a strike without NEC. It is NEC that empower you, not by mere pronouncement. So that is why we in the TUC, we're very conscious of it. We have also taken note. We have also saying, you know, our members are collating, engaging the governors on
the respective
years when they expected to pay on come on board. But the most important thing is let the process of payment of this minimum wage start, and that is the issue of consequential adjustment. You know, once that is done, then but the committee can also give a window by telling the government, let us come out with 1 or 2 incentives that will caution the impact and the effects of inflation and the high cost of living that affect the workers. And once that is established, the committee will run until they arrived at amicable resolutions, and then they set a time date for implementation of that. I think that is given.
I'm quite aware that you may understand that some private sectors, those that are working in the private sectors some are losing their jobs. The inflation is really fighting hard toward this sector. So there are those that feel that the delay over the implementation of the respective states is giving some impact directly or indirectly to the private sector. Are you concerned?
Well, I think the private sector have their own what we call collective bargaining agreement, how they handle that, and even when the negotiation was ongoing, no private sector paid, you know, as at then 35,000. No private sector paid that because they are very concerned. It tests, you know, the efficacy and productivity. So they are very concerned about that. Because but when you talk of a lot of company closing shop, it's not as a result of payment of minimum wage. But let me also say that the public sector, the minimum wage a worker receives also stimulate the informal economy, you know. And when you look at one of the challenges that affected some of the low or nano industries is double taxation and multiple taxation. And I believe that is what the current tax reform, if it's well implemented, will address, you know, because you cannot in a particular, you see about 4-7 you know, juggling on taxation. You know, he doesn't give a stand, and he does not also encourage investors.
All right, let's swiftly get to issues of of the economy, because I understand that if we also speak out, you know, fighting inflation is about the economy. Port Harcourt Refinery, you know, was put to light the other times that those are jubilating. Oh, we now have a local refinery. The last time you were here, you were concerned about how we can get a local refinery working. So you've been involved. You understand better. Clearly, Having Port Harcourt refinery has not, reflected on the issues of the pricing and the petrol. They are now saying, look, it's a market forces that is now determining how much they can be sold, and based on the dollar exchange and all of that. So that, hopes of Nigerians is still, at the low level due to the issues that we now have our own local refinery.
Let me say this: seeing is believing. I cannot sit here and talk convincingly that Port Harcourt refinery is working.
We've had your president visit the site.
Yes, he can speak on that because he's an expert.
Okay.
But I can only talk on what I've read in the newspaper or listened to, But let me also say this with emphasis that whether Port Harcourt refinery works, Kaduna refinery work, that will not stop the pricing of PMS, because like you said, it is determined by market forces. But the only thing he would checkmate monopoly. He will tame the monopoly of maybe Dangote, refinery, and it will also stimulate the economy because fuel will be an abundant supply. Because the most important thing is accessibility. If you stimulate the economy with PMS now, there will be that healthy competitions, and maybe the pricing may be a little bit, fluctuating. Where you have, like today, you can get fuel with in NNPC, for 1,060. Maybe another one can say 1,070 or 1,080, 1,040, like that. You see the interplay and the market mix. So that is but you see, it is also good because if an individual can establish a refinery and run in full stream, there's no moral justification where government cannot. Yes, the Port Harcourt refinery, if it is working, then that is the mean. But we are concerned it's also the new Port Harcourt refinery. Let it also work in full stream. Then Kaduna. By the time we have all this working in full stream, accessibility of PMS, will be there, and market mix will also influence the pricing, and by so doing, you have a choice, that will address the issue of
willing buyers, sellers, and all of those economic dynamics. All of that is still a major concern because those are really feeling that we needed to find a way to navigate out of the current economic hardship, and the reforms taken by the government has continued to be highly criticized. So let's now get to the issue of tax reforms. I understand you had clearly hinted on that. Is meeting a lot of rejection. The argument that those that are arguing about the tax reform is that, look, you deprive some states, some state ordinary who were also benefiting indirectly from issue of VAT and all of that will be deprived at the end of the day. So they're having a concern about that. Yes, they have said, look, it's a fantastic bill, but there are gray areas that must be critically looked into. And the Senate are saying, let's reconsider, let's reconvene, let's consult and all of that. Do you feel that the consultation may have a way of pushing back this bill? Or do you also feel that the bill is the right way?
Well, let me say this with all sense of responsibility. Nigeria is known to politicize everything, especially things that may not seems to have favored you. You want to play politics and maybe sometimes religion into it. You see, the tax reform bill, the only challenges I feel it was not effectively communicated. If what they are doing now, what is happening now, the conversation they are having now is like reactive after the NEC meeting from the governors that feel that the bill should be withdrawn for them to have another conversation. So government now started communicating, educating, and enlightening. If this was ab initio, I think a lot of people will have still settled for it. To me, there's nothing wrong with it because you are talking of a productive economy, and one of the major challenges facing economy and then investors is taxation. And when the taxation are double taxation, as the case in Nigeria, you are taxing this, you are taxing this, you are taxing this, investors will have no other option than to close shop. But with this unified reform tax bill, if it becomes an act, he will create a productive economy. And those workers who are earning below 1 million will be free from different taxation. You only know that, yes, your payee, that settles it, but not going further. And again, a lot of investors will have confidence to come back because they have a mindset. They know what they are in, what they are about, what they will pay, rather than just coming to establish business and you are being bombarded by different taxation. So I don't see any reason why we must, you see, in development communication, you must be able to take your message to the people rather than allowing the people to react to your message before you can now start defending your bill. Those who are in the government machineries of passing information, they will have done a better work than what is happening now ab initio. That will have helped to quell this. But I want to encourage Nigerians that they should not look at development for now. Development has a lot of future. Let us put the tax bill to test. You will see that, because we cannot continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. If Nigerian truly...
But we've tried to do different things. At the end of the day, we couldn't see the good other result. We've worked out many reforms.
It depends on who is at the driving seat. Leadership, play a critical role when it comes to implementation of reform, because you must have the willpower to implement reform. And let me also say, any reform that is not painful is not a reform. I remember when Nigerians started the issue of telecommunication. A lot of people, in fact, there was a time a minister of communication said that telephone was not meant for the poor. With due respect, I know the name, but I cannot mention here for obvious reason. But today, everybody is going around communicating. It makes it easy. Now, we have been on this tax issue, different taxation. In fact, even when we were having conversation during the national minimum wage, a lot of the private sectors were concerned about multiple taxation. So let's give it a try, because it will also wake up a lot of governors from the sleep. A lot of them will now understand that you need to work, for result. You must be productive.
Yes,
you cannot just sit at the comfort of your zone and expect that you will drive away poverty. No, it's not possible. You must work to have something to take back to. You can't sit down and then manna will fall from heaven and then come to you. No, I think the tax reform, if we accept it and pass into law and implement it, will bring a change to this economy. That is my expectation, and I do hope so.
Because part of the rejections and the concern about these those that are opposing this bill are the fact that some of the areas, for instance, the VAT derivations is still a major concern to them, and how the whole sharing formula will at the end of the look like. Yes, you mentioned the issue about state productivity. Quickly speaking on that, what is your assessment so far? Because when you look at the fact that some of the headquarters of these businesses are situated in maybe Rivers State and Lagos, so there were argument that Lagos used to take VAT even when product is being consumed in this state and all of that. So when we don't have state going back to look at what they can do, how about people that are already advantaged in terms of, for instance, Lagos, having headquarters of businesses there?
I've listened to this conversation. Let me tell you, if you want to kill a dog, you give a bad name. When VAT and the realization was shared, some states have many local governments, some have small. There was no cry. There was no cry. But now they said, okay, you cannot reap where you didn't sow. What does that supposed to tell you? It means that every hand must be on deck. Whether you have 40 local government, 10 local government, and so you must work to benefit from this. Forget about it. If you are concerned about where a company is situated, it is also opportunity for you to establish one and run. You know, because if you don't create enabling environment for industrialization, then how will you now benefit from it? So it will create unhealthy, competition among even states, among the state governors, so that if you are vying for a position to run, as a governor of a state, you know what you are into. Your mindset is not about what you get from fact and come to share. No, your mindset, you must think outside the box to know that you are coming there to work, but not to sit down and then calivat or run the names of bearing His Excellency Mr. Governor. No, there are things to be done that will now awaken the consciousness of economic development in your state, so that you can benefit from these incentives.
All right. Part of this concern of many was issues of getting the grassroots development. That was the reason why when we had local government autonomy, it looks at many persons said it's a step in the right direction, but many implementation has still, of course, been silenced. Would you say it can be attributed to the outcome of local government elections without also saying so far, would that really give us what we wanted in terms of intentions of the president or this government to get development back to the grassroots, owing to the fact that we must see how we can tackle some of our problems, even from the grassroots level?
Well, it's unfortunate that we always put the cart before the horse. The Supreme Court have decided, and I give kudos to it, that when you talk about development, it comes from the grassroots. And any development must come with destruction. It's like if you want to build a house, you need to demolish before you set. By the time you set the house and it becomes, everybody will say, what a fine building. So destruction is an hallmark of development. So it comes with that. What is happening now in the local government, the system has already been sophisticated and sophisticated by what it used to be in the past. So with this new development, they have to put a framework that, will give the implementation a smooth drive. So that is just what is delaying. But I do hope that, this administration is very much concerned on local government autonomy, and that by the decision of the Supreme Court, there's no going back.
Because some state were already trying to review their state laws, like Anambra and all of that, looking at, they said that, it has to be still on the joint account. You can't completely allow this local government to manage the resources alone. So they already moved like that from the state. Do you feel that?
Yeah, but you see, the anti-corruption agency are also on them. The end will justify the means. So I don't want to talk about whatever they want to do to manipulate in order to stifle the local government administration from, from the freedom of the state. You'll find out that the anti-corruption agencies are on them, and the end will justify.
So you feel the state has, the local government has the capacity to drive this development, if completely given this autonomy?
Course. Why? You see, in 1976, the 3-tier of government came into force. Independent. That is why we have the federal, the states, and the local government, where they make residuals law. They can run. But you see, the problem we have is the recruitment process, where they are subservient to the governor, where the governor detects who becomes the chairman. But if they have allowed the will of the people to detect who become the chairman, you'll find out that everything will run through. Because who you press the piper, detect the tune. That is what is playing out in Nigeria. But if the people select who lead them, there will be peace, tranquility, and you see them. Because every local government chairman must come up with it. Now, a lot of local government chairman, have you seen their blueprints? They don't have. They don't have the blueprint.
They were selected
because they will just be selected
through an electoral process.
So they did not go through the record of electoral process. That is why you can see an unknown party will come and win a local government, and local election in the local government supposed to be one of the toughest elections, because everybody understand who is coming to lead them. Yes. Anything you want in this country comes from the local government. That's why we say politics is local.
What is stopping farming? It looks that food inflation is still high. We've seen government try to engage, some persons in respect to these aspects, but nothing to show. If after 18 months, for instance, of this government coming to meet food inflation already in the country, there were those that were expecting that by now they would have had their own produce, their output, food or whatever that they are able to for the past few months, just to feed back to the country. People are going to bed hungry. Many cannot even afford 2 square meals in a day. So it's still giving back the pressure. Even when we see on the street of Abuja, the minister said, we are seeing so many beggars. So we are doing operation, clean up Abuja so as to chase out beggars on the street. And those that told the minister, you can't, chase beggars off the street when they are hungry, because an hungry man is finding what to eat. Are you concerned about the food inflation?
Well, let me start from the baker colony. Where you have a maker city, it is wrong for you to allow nuisance to take over the streets in the name of baking. I watched a social media clip and discovered that one man who tied his hand and then walked was a very healthy man. There was nothing wrong. So there are people who are perpetual in the business of baking. And if you allow them to come into Abuja and then constitute or establish a colony, automatically you have defaced the beauty of the city. In the area of food insufficiency, or as the case may be, I want to say that one of the major problems is insecurity. Because if the time for planting, you have a little relaxation from the insurgent, and when the time for harvest, from what we hear and read, the farmer have to pay before he can even enter the farm, to harvest, and also have to share the product. So it becomes a problem. Insecurity is one of the challenges that this government needs to tackle headlong. Because if there is no insecurity, a lot of people will go to their farm and then harvest and go to the market. Another area that we need to look at, how to provide, the transportation system where farmers can convey their produce to the market, at a lesser cost. Because it is the inclusion of the cost of transportation that determine the marginal cost. And when that marginal cost is determined, then the unit cost is also a function of the marginal cost, which will make it very expensive. And that's why you can go to the market, the tomatoes, you say, is it not from the farm? But where the price will be mentioned, you will be shocked. So these are because the cost of transportation form the marginal cost, and the marginal cost, a unit cost is determined by the marginal cost. So that is it. So government need to, you can provide all the incentive, farm implement and so on. If government is not intentional about addressing the issue of insecurity, it becomes a wasted venture.
Because the reason I asked you that was because those that feel even if you increase income capacity of many persons, if all of these inflation indicators are still on the high side, we'll still have issues of people advocating and collaborating for all of that. You had advocated for CNG buses to cushion the effect of transportation on workers and the generality of Nigerians. But it looks at that dream of us sustaining that is not really coming to fruition.
No. As we speak, there have been a distribution of those buses, but it comes in batches. We are very hopeful. I'm not aware, but I was told that in Abuja they have started applying the road. But I think what government was trying to fix was trying to see how they can all those conversion
centers
and those centers put in place and so on. It will play a dominant role to crash the transportation, because you can imagine if somebody is coming from Kwakwalada, for instance, to the city center, and he will be paying maybe 500 naira. that alone will, while the regular will take about 3,000, and so that alone will crash and so on. So we are very concerned, and the government is very much intentional about it, I can say. And they have also given some of the buses to the labor centers, who will also make a distribution across the states. So once those things, the kits, the conventional kits are in place, I'm sure by next year, there will be a lot of changes. I'm not speaking for the government, but we are very much informed about this, and we are aware. For us, like TUC, we have gotten some, and we are still expecting some. And once it all comes, we hit the states, and and
to caution
you crash the transportation costs, and I think workers will be in for a good deal.
All right, very excellent. As we begin to wrap up on the convention, if we have some state paying 85, for instance, and others still having to stand with 75, is it because they do not have the capacity to pay? Because when you look at back to 2019, 30,000, they were said, so there was some state that was still going for 17,000. I mean, they owed 18,000 and all of that. So persons said some state can only pay, I mean, if they have the capacity to pay, they will. And are you more worried about this? Because if we allow all of this to be the board the simple way, issues of 18,000 and 33,000 may also be replayed.
No. You see, the fact is, the government was very intentional. When we arrived at, it took us months to arrive at 70,000. And we now say that state can pay more because they are very viable states. There are some states that are very viable, but you can't go below 70,000. And that's why among all states that have done conversation, about the issue of minimum wage, nobody have said that they will not be able to pay 70,000 because it was also agreed. Don't also forget, states governors were also represented in the minimum wage committee, and don't also forget that it also passed through the neck, so there's no dissenting voice, everybody, what is where any state can even pay 100,000 as a minimum wage. It shows the concern they have for the workers, because where much is given, much is expected, So if you are concerned about the well-being, the welfare of the worker, you need to pay, something that they will look back and believe that, yes, the government is excited. And I was just telling you about my state, where the governor has graciously given 13 months, where they call Umomba, So it's something they must come out with, a strategic incentive that can aid to caution the plight of the workers, and then pay the minimum wage that is also commensurate with what is accrued to the state. I told you that if the state say they don't have money, they can only deceive themselves, because the workers, they know that they have. Don't forget, the accountant general of the state is also a worker. Don't also forget that the director general of different agencies, they are also the worker, and so many other workers. So you can only deceive yourself, but you can't deceive a worker. That is the truth.
Government says that they can't continue to pay salaries. I mean, issues of workers not really doing anything that are not productive and all that. Having the argument that instead of that, they have to build infrastructure in the state, developmental infrastructure, other than paying attention to issues of payment of salary. Do you feel they are not prioritizing that enough, or is out of context?
We are not aware that, because no sane governor will say that. No sane governor will say that, because when you look at unemployment rate, they will also constitute a nuisance. So you must engage, because an idle mind is a devil workshop. You must have a strategic way of engaging. Infrastructure development is sacrosanct, because you were not elected. Before you come into power, you know that these things are going to be, and you are not using your money to do it. So you must think out of the box how to create. There are some states that have benefited from even corporate social responsibilities, of of a company organization established in their zone, because they make it so a lot of, so they shouldn't even talk that because of money goes to infrastructure. I've told you that worker salary is a right, so it's not an incentive, it's a right that you must pay. You must pay, and of course they know what will cost them if there's any form of industrial unrest in the states.
A lot of development in respect to the new national minimum wage and implementation, a concern about all of this, what it really means, the actions. NLC already, some workers are already threatening some actions against some states that are yet to implement, while other states have begun the implementation process by setting up committees to look at that. It was very pertinent that we have this conversation. The private sector as well has still put their eyes on to government in respect to how all of that can also, in terms of managing the issues surrounding the economy, inflation, and all of that, is a major concern on the other side for the private sector, so as for them to continue to navigate the organizations, different organizations, to still stay afloat. All of that is still a major concern, and the economic concern in the country is still on the table of the president and the state government to also pay attention to addressing all of these economic hardship, concern of workers and the generality of Nigerians, just to be able to create a fair and equity society. My guest is the first Deputy President of Trade Union Congress, Comrade Tommy Etim. Thanks so much for joining us on the show tonight. We deeply appreciate you once again.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, that's what we wrap it up tonight. A lot of development will come to tomorrow on the program. We'll look at the crisis in Labour Party. Over 5 members of House of Representatives have defected from Labour Party, few to APC and the other to the People's Democratic Party. Tomorrow on the program, Big Talk, we'll extract that development. What is the crisis like in Labour Party and even to the People's Democratic Party? Thanks so much. My name is Odika Michael. See you then.